Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I'm Rebecca, and I'm joined by Bonnie, Leah, and Katie talking about our one cool environmental gal. Leah already talked about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and Bonnie just talked about Inga Lehman. But before we dive back in, let's get to know something random about our gal pals. And I have decided to ask everybody, what is at least one way that you have reconnected with nature since the pandemic of March 2020?
Dun, dun, dun. Otherwise known as the time the world got weird.
Right. The COVID times, pandemic times,
Weird.
whatever we're going to call that. Hopefully by the time this comes out, we're going to be almost done, but who knows?
Right. Who knows? It's a new normal.
We're
It's all-
working on it.
It's all who knows.
Exactly. I know Bonnie built a shed.
Yeah, I did. Well, we had just moved into our house like September of 2019.
Wow. Okay.
So it was like already on my docket to do like gardening. Mm-hmm. But since I had all that time off, I was, what was it, furloughed?
Furloughed.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I had a whole bunch of time to do even more of the gardening stuff. Because we had to like move garden beds because we were going to put in this shed greenhouse. Mm-hmm. And since the yard's not like level, we had to build a little deck for it to go onto, because it's like a 1.5 foot on one side.
Gotcha.
Like it's way dippy. So we got like the shed greenhouse and moved garden beds, added more garden beds. Last year was like very much like, we gotta grow our own food. Like,
Yeah, it
a long
was.
time. We can't find food in the
It's
store.
pretty much like,
Yeah,
like I
grocery
wanted
stores
to, you
are
know,
sold out. So what are we gonna do?
take pressure off of the stores and grow local and grow your own stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all organic and all that stuff. And then this next year I was like, okay, I'm going to try to grow like some flowers, get more like pollinators and stuff. Like I got some milkweed for the butterflies and stuff.
Aww.
But I think it's not good for the dogs, so it's got to go in the front yard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I started getting like saving seeds. Been going all out. Like I feel like it's all stuff I would have done anyway, but it's been like more extreme because of the pandemic.
And sped up, too.
Yeah. And the canning, since I was growing all that stuff, we were canning, making like pickles and spaghetti sauce and stuff.
Yes. I think it just sounded like it reinforced what you wanted to do anyway and gave you time to do it.
Yeah.
Which is very nice. That's a gift right there. Why do I feel like, Katie, what did you do? Why do I feel like it's a totally juxtaposition, but it probably isn't?
What? No.
Because you love being inside.
Oh, no, I love being outside,
Okay,
too.
gotcha.
I
just
do.
not people.
I do. I just don't like people.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
That's why we have, like, an awesome covered front porch. We don't sit on it. That's
Ah.
not enough protection. We sit in the backyard. Like, I love to sit out in the backyard while the dogs are out and playing because I have a privacy fence.
Yes.
Yeah, I go out there in my PJs looking disgusting. I'll even wear shorts in my backyard.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
the blasphemy.
So no, I actually do spend a good amount of time outside, but I like being in my home compound.
Right, yeah, there you go.
But I did do something kind of unexpected for me last summer.
Yeah.
And that was work on riding my bike again. I guess
Nice.
I guess I shouldn't say work on.
Right.
The only work was putting air back in the tires and then convincing myself I wouldn't die if I got on it.
There you go.
But yeah, and so I'm excited for better weather because my son's 9 and he still doesn't know how to ride without training wheels.
Oh, gotcha.
So-
My kids don't know how to ride a bike either. They're like, we will never need to know this. And I'm like,
know,
you will.
yeah.
You will.
Oh, yeah.
Someday you'll appreciate. Yeah.
I think he'd enjoy it a lot, but he's so scared of getting hurt. So
Yes.
it's going to be just like, I think, a mental battle to
Yeah.
convince him he can do it. So
Yeah.
that's the only different thing, kind of the same level of environmental connection.
Right.
And I don't know, I feel like maybe a heightened appreciation.
Yeah,
Because, you know,
right.
you feel like you have to stay in your house. but
Yeah.
then, like,
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, you can go out and take a deep breath. Or like, even being able to connect to friends. It felt safer to hang outside.
Yeah.
Like, we had friends come over that just came over to, like, hang in the backyard and
Right.
have a drink and hang out. So, yeah.
almost outside almost became more of a safe place.
Yeah, totally.
That community zone. For me, it's a little bit weirder. It's like I still like being inside. I still have the 10-minute burn window. So you're not really going to catch me too much with the gardening stuff. I mean, I'm totally cheering on the husband. Good job bringing those tomatoes in. Those flowers look great. And those I'm allergic to, so please keep them outside. Lilies. I'm allergic to lilies. So, but for me, I think what I don't want to say enjoyed, but found interesting was when we were all inside of our houses, how quickly the skies cleared up. Because I used to live in Los Angeles, and like the skies are like orange and gross, and people were posting pictures of how you could actually see across town. And I was like, holy crap. So it was like giving Mother Nature like a break from us all being, commuting and working and stuff like that. I just loved that pause and that kind of like, like giving Mother Earth like kind of like a breath sort of thing. So I know I really didn't do it with nature, but I connected in that way of, oh, thank goodness we're taking a break for a minute. And isn't this nice how like it's already trying to like heal itself?
Yeah, that's so cool.
So yeah, I enjoyed that. What about you, Rebecca?
Yeah, so mine's similar to Katie. I guess we had there's a trail by my house that has been extended, and they finished it like last fall.
Nice.
And so we could see the progress as it went from like cleared gravelly land to kind of paved to racing stripe down the middle.
Ooh. Yes, it's a game on.
Yeah.
The Pensy Trail?
Yeah, Pensy Trail.
Did they finally connect it to the Greenfield or to the Irvington?
So Irvington to New Pal. Well, Irvington to Cumberland, I guess. So Irvington to German Church.
Nice.
From Ritter to German Church is all done. And there's like 2 bridges that they've been working on. Cool. So at one point you had to carry your bike across the bridge because at one point you're like, is this bridge even safe for me to
structurally
walk?
sound?
Yeah.
Sweet.
And it was a rail trail at one point, so it's probably been okay.
Yeah.
But it was
had a train on it.
Yeah, but that was probably like decades ago. Right. The last train would have gone over it, so who knows? But we would see. But like the nice thing is you can see nature and you're more connected to that. And then when it got crappy outside in the winter, I started going on walks, and so I'll walk like a couple miles when I do go. It's not every day, but if I can go, I feel like my mental health is better. I was making more effort like on like the solstice last winter. I remember like on that day, even though it was like, I don't know what the temperature was, I'd have to look it up, but it was, cold.
Yeah.
And so I just got used to like, okay, I'm going to have to just put on extra layers and my heavy
Get
coat.
used to the cold. Yeah.
Yeah. And the kind of funny thing and all that in a way is I felt that I'd been like weirdly like preparing for that over time because I had like stretch pants from when I used to play roller derby and like knee socks, and I'd have like all these just things that made
you had
sense.
everything you needed.
Yeah, I already had all that stuff as far as layers, and so it was just like, okay, I'm gonna wear this layer, and then I didn't mind wearing a face covering because it was windy and cold anyway.
It keeps you warm. Yeah, exactly.
But I would definitely like avoid people if they were coming toward me or too close, or their dog looked kind of rogue or whatever, or there was a rogue dog every once in a while. But at first I was like taking pictures more because I was just like walking around. But then after a while I was like, no, I'm just going to be present.
Yes.
I'm going to just enjoy. But I say that I still like listen to headphone like podcasts or music or something.
Give yourself an ambiance.
Yeah, because I still like don't want to have to deal with people. But but that's like kind of become my thing. And it's like kind of a nice, like normally in the winter I would probably be going out and doing stuff out and about indoors and places and not having maybe the time or making the effort, and so it was just kind of been a matter of making that priority. And
for
it's
you,
and it's a mental health thing more than a physical health thing for me. So I'm not like doing it for any exercise goal or anything. It's just like if I don't do it, it's that's like how do I get to normal?
Right, exactly. That's the new normal.
That's the new normal. As if I don't walk for like 3 days, I get a little bit crazy and I have to like it's like Katie was saying, like we felt like stuck in our houses. So I could like walk around, but then there's like a meme at some point I found where it was like, I'm fine, I'm just gonna take a sad walk around the neighborhood again. And I'm like, yeah, that gets me. No, but it's okay.
Like, I hear you, meme. I hear you.
Right. Like I'm not mad about it, but
the pandemic, you could totally tell like who the introverts and extroverts were.
Yeah.
because I'm
Me
just
and
up in
Katie
my
were
house
yes.
like this is great.
Right.
Meetings canceled. Booyah! But Rebecca, who is your one cool environmental gal?
So I have Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland.
Sweet. And she's
Nice.
brand new to this job
And
too,
she
isn't she?
Brand new. She just
Very
got
excited.
sworn in.
Yeah.
I would have to look it up, but it probably about a month before this comes out, I would say roughly. But yeah, so she is the first Native American person to have this job
Yay.
and is the highest ranked Native American person in this in our federal government right
Cool.
now because of that. Which it's like, okay, that's good, but it's also like, why
It's
did
also
it take?
sad. Yes,
It's
exactly. Why so long?
2021.
Yes,
Why are we
exactly.
just now here?
Absolutely.
And it's also the department that oversees the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Yes.
Nice.
So if you just take a minute and kind of absorb
Right.
what that means for
the
the
first time.
for the
Yeah.
first time to have the person in charge who is like going to be directly affected and they're
Why hasn't this happened?
It
before?
should have
But
almost
sure.
been a requirement before,
Right.
like
or at least to have somebody in that kind of
advisor,
decision maker,
Yeah.
manager,
board member, yeah,
board
something.
member,
Mhm.
something. But we're slowly making progress.
Slow.
Yay, progress. But she is 60 years old, and she was earlier she was elected to represent New Mexico in Congress in 2018.
Cool.
So she's she's not new to the political scene, but she's new to like this level of political
Right, yeah.
work. And so I'm going to talk about her, including her background. And then I'm going to talk about some of the work she did while in Congress, even though it was only 2 years. She sponsored several bills. She co-sponsored a lot of bills. I'm going to try to focus more on her environmental bills, but there's some other things in there that I'll bring up.
Gotcha.
And then originally I was going to talk about the 30 by 2030 plan, but for the interest of time,
Gotcha.
I'm not going to try to stumble
That
through
is
that.
totally fine.
But
Yes,
it's still
exactly.
important. I'm going to end on that because it's one of the bills that she introduced in her when she first came in, and now that she's been sworn in officially, she's no longer the congressperson, and it's like a vacant spot
Right,
as
yeah.
far as I know because it's so new. I don't know how quickly it'll take for them to fill that. So she is. I'm going to be reading a lot from her biography on the Department of the Interior's website. So
Gotcha.
I've made a couple changes and I'll make some kind of comments as I go through it.
Yeah, no worries.
So Secretary Haaland is a member of the Pueblo of Laguna and a 35th generation New Mexican,
Ooh.
which I don't know how many people can say they're
35th generation.
Yeah.
Wow. Of any state in the United States.
of anything,
Right.
of anywhere.
Wow.
So she grew up in a military family. Her father was a 30-year combat Marine who was awarded a Silver Star Medal for saving 6 lives in Vietnam. And I looked him up, and he is Norwegian Minnesotan.
Oh, Minnesota again.
So now we're kind of connecting a little
Look
bit.
at that.
to
And
this.
Norwegian, we're going to call it close-ish to the Denmarkish.
Maybe. Potentially.
Scandinavian-ish.
Yeah, something like that. And her mother is a Navy veteran who served as a federal employee for 25 years, including time at the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Oh, look at that.
Which is also kind of interesting.
Yeah, nice.
As a military child, she attended 13 public schools
Whoa.
before graduating from Highland High School in Albuquerque.
Ah.
And Albuquerque is part of her district she had when she was with a congresswoman for New Mexico
Gotcha.
for that role. And so, as we were talking about earlier, she's clearly not like her peers in Congress. And this is me going off the script a little bit, but but this is something she also openly discusses, such as on podcast interviews and in other places, talking about why representation matters.
Yeah.
And she's come right out and said she thinks there should be more folks like her who in government who have working class backgrounds to understand what it's like to actually
Earn money for a living?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Try to make
Go
it paycheck
through-
to paycheck?
Yeah, go through like real world situations.
Not being able to find toilet paper during a pandemic?
Right, exactly.
Little things like that.
Yeah. And so when she was a single mother, She volunteered at her child's preschool, and this is on the Department of Interior's website. She volunteered at her child's preschool in order to afford early childhood education. And so that is also one of her issues that she's addressed. And like many parents, like you just said, she had to rely on food stamps at times as a single parent, live paycheck to paycheck, and struggled to put herself through college.
Yeah, right? That's a lot of people in this country.
And she worked in a bakery for a time.
She worked in a bakery.
And right, like after she graduated high school, she worked in a local bakery. And in 1988, at age 28, she enrolled at the University of New Mexico, where she ultimately earned her Bachelor of Arts in English. And then a few days after graduating, she gave birth to her daughter.
Ah, look at that.
So
that's
then,
called efficiency. Give me that diploma, and here
right,
comes the baby.
Right. And then she ended up getting her law degree from UNM as well.
Gotcha.
So then she and her child is also graduated from University of New Mexico, are still paying off their student loans.
But of course.
And again, that part is on the bio on the Department of the Interior's website. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I'm guessing she had some say in what was included in that.
Right, exactly.
And it also included that she ran her own small business producing and canning Pueblo salsa.
Canning, Bonnie.
So we've got some ties in here. She served as a tribal administrator at San Felipe Pueblo and became the first woman elected to the Laguna Development Corporation Board of Directors, overseeing business operations of the second largest tribal gaming enterprise in New Mexico.
Interesting.
Then she successfully advocated for the Laguna Development Corporation to create policies and commitments to environmentally friendly business practices. And I was hoping to find a little bit more about her environmental work that she had done.
Right,
so that might be kind of like, I mean, I'll talk about her bills in a minute here.
Gotcha.
But also I wanted to pause here for a minute because there are several BIPOC women who've been very active in instrumental environmental policies, environmental justice issues. And even if they don't always get the credit they deserve, a lot of times they're not even trying to get credit for what they're doing.
Right,
It's
they're
because
just trying to do the work.
Right, it's like it's their neighborhood or it's their community, and they're trying to just make things better for themselves and their families.
Yeah.
And I also believe that the Gals Guide Library has a few books about. Well, I know we have books about women environmentalists.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure
Native American gals as well.
Yeah, and Native American gals,
especially
and,
like William a Man Killer. We have her bio. Sorry, I'm
and
so
like
proud of
women
William.
in Congress and that sort of thing. And then I'm pretty sure I donated. I'm not quite sure I did, but I think I did.
Gotcha.
A book that is specifically about different case studies of environmental justice.
Yes, absolutely.
And a lot of them are. I don't know if they're all women in that book, but I know several.
A lot of them are.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
And it's like various areas of the country. So originally that was going to be my focus for this podcast, was to talk about different women who've been doing
environmental
justice work.
Yeah.
But she's clearly environmentally minded.
Right.
And I know we try not to be like super political on here, but she's also been called out for being like one of the most progressive of Biden's nominees.
Gotcha.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was trying to find podcast interviews with her, doing my research for this, a couple of the first ones that popped up were like more conservative leaning podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about, whoa, she's trying to stop Keystone XL pipeline and that sort of thing.
Right.
So again, not going too deep into
right
political territory there, but
yeah, no worries.
But gives you kind of a sense of like her
political leaning.
Yeah.
Exactly,
but it's probably no surprise. But also comparing her to other people he's been nominating, she's one of the more progressive of the bunch.
Right.
And so. Okay, so throughout her career in public service, she's broken barriers and opened the doors of opportunity for future generations.
Yeah.
After running for New Mexico Lieutenant Governor in 2014, Secretary Haaland became the first Native American woman to be elected to lead a state party. She's one of the first Native American women to serve in Congress. Like I said, she was elected in 2018. And in Congress, she focused on environmental justice, climate change, missing and murdered Indigenous women, and family-friendly policies.
Nice.
So I looked her up on just congress.gov. And again, she only served those 2 years.
Right.
2018 to 2020. She did run in 2020 and was elected again.
Yes. But then she got the cabinet position.
But then she got the cabinet position. Yeah. So, and again, that had been discussed, I don't know if it was during the election time time? Like
sometimes it is, sometimes it's like right after,
think
like that
it
December,
was.
January.
I think it was kind of maybe known that she was going to be one of the
on the short list.
Yeah, on the short list, sure. Or at least people were guessing because of her background and because it would make sense to do that. So I found she'd sponsored 8 bills, and I'll just kind of go through those. I'll just name them off because it's kind of, most of them are pretty clear. If it's not clear, I'll say what it is. So she did a CDC, Tribal Public Health Security and Preparedness Act.
Gotcha.
That she sponsored. She sponsored Climate Stewardship Act of 2019. So there we go, the climate change. The SOAR Act, SOAR. This bill sets forth and revises provisions regarding special recreation permits for use by individuals and groups to engage in recreational activities on federal recreational lands and waters.
Gotcha. Yes.
Universal Child Care and Early Learning Act. So that's,
Sweet.
there we go with the family-friendly policies. Native American Business Incubators Program Act, which makes sense because she ran a small business for a time.
Very cool, though. Yes.
The Supporting the Farmers Bill of Rights Act.
Cool.
Recognizing the duty of federal government to implement an agenda to transform, heal, renew by investing in a vibrant economy. Thrive Act. Expressing the sense of the House of Representatives that the federal government should establish a national goal of conserving at least 30% of the land and ocean of the United States by 2030.
Land conservation.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's 30 by 30, and that's...
Oh, that's the 30 by 30.
That's 30 by 30.
Gotcha.
And it involves several other countries. The idea is to have 30% of land and water marked as conservation lands.
Right.
Or waters. And then there's some discussion about like, okay, well, what counts for that?
Right.
Like it should be
What's
like
the criteria.
So it should be biologically diverse.
Right.
The resolution's pretty long, so I won't read the whole thing. But I will read. So the Nature Conservancy did write up about it. Again, it's having representation. It says, and it's, so it should be different types of habitats and
flora and fauna.
Right.
Animals
And like the quality and that sort of thing. So it shouldn't just be like, okay, we'll preserve this land or conserve this land that's like trash land.
Right. That has
Not
no
that any land
animals
is
on
trash,
it.
but
Right.
there's some land that's better than other. Like we were just talking about the Everglades.
Yes, exactly. Which
wetlands
houses
are going to be
lots of animal species.
Yeah, so that's going to be huge. But then you're going to have some land that has just no animals because they can't survive there.
Yeah.
Or it's maybe other issues with that land or water. Then they said that there should be resilience should be considered. That we should be restoring land. So like I said, there's trash land, but maybe looking into seeing what
recovery.
we can. Recovery or maybe we're not using it for its earlier intended purposes. So now we're going to like figure out a way to maybe put some plants in there or do something with it to make it.
Bring it back.
Yeah. Revitalize it. Then there are different ways of governance that could be applied. And this whole thing is based on science. It's not just random arbitrary numbers.
Right.
Like this is based on like where we're at now.
And people have been fighting for a long time. I mean, like John Muir was one of them that would always fight for conservatives. Yep, exactly. So it's just, conservation, that's where it is.
So they've got a few other ideas here, but one of the things that was interesting about it too is that's not that far away.
I know, right?
That's only like 9 years away.
I know. Got some work to do.
Yeah.
8 and 3/4.
Right. And so it's like, so it's part of the, it's also part of like Biden's, I can't remember if it's like a climate change initiative, but one of his environmental initiatives that he's announced.
Yeah.
That I think within the first 100 days, he's hoping that there's going to be more of a plan in place, and that's going to fall under
his Green New Deal or something like that.
Yeah. So it's going to fall under Haaland's purview of what she's going to have to be working on. So maybe by the time this comes out, we'll have
maybe a little bit more solid ideas, or at least a plan for the next step, or something like that.
Right. So it's still
it could be really exciting moving forward, though.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's like hopefully, and she's expected to get some things done based on her background, and she's already like been working with other folks on this, and so she should be in a good position to do that. And so then she's also co-sponsored several bills. So there was an Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act of 2020.
Cool.
She co-sponsored Energy Resilient Communities Act.
Nice.
She co-sponsored Protect America's Children from Toxic Pesticides Act.
I mean, you got to approve that.
Right. Who's gonna vote against that?
I really want my kids to make sure they have all the pesticides.
Yeah, I want them to all like have terrible issues with
Right.
that. Great American Outdoors Act. That's another one that it establishes national parks and public land legacy restoration fund to support deferred maintenance projects on federal lands. Clean Water for All Act, Farm System Reform Act, Emergency Water is a Human Right Act, Environmental Justice for All Act. So these are just ones where she co-sponsored, but it's still it gives like a pretty good sense.
It gives you an idea of her focus.
Yeah.
And where she's
her values,
putting her attention,
her ideals, right?
And what she can get done.
Right, and so. Migratory Bird Protection Act of 2020. So I didn't print out which one of the ones of these like actually got very far, but at least they were introduced.
Well,
in her
and they
time.
also could be reintroduced. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
or somehow fudged with to make it make sense to work with our current politicians. But yeah, so I think that's all I have. I mean, I definitely encourage anyone who wants to hear her. Like, she does talk a lot on different podcasts. Like, she'll do interviews. Like I said, I found several conservative leaning ones that would focus on why they don't like her or whatever. But she actually does speak for herself a lot, and she does focus on her background, and again, representation matters.
Yeah.
And like one I listened to today talked about they asked her, they're like, well, how do you make friends in Congress? And she's like, well, there's the different caucuses, and they invited us to join them, and so that helped us get involved with other folks and get us a sense of what they're doing. So so she's a very interesting person. Oh, and then she also wore like traditional garb for her swearing in.
I saw that,
which was like a pretty big deal too.
Very cool.
So that's
what was it called? Ribbon dress?
Yeah, ribbon dress.
Yeah.
Very
really
cool.
Yeah. So she's definitely like in tune with her background, and so it's like her dad was the Minnesotan and her mom was Native American.
Gotcha. There
so
you go.
that's that connection there. But
Nice.
but she also said in one of the podcasts that like when she was talking about how there should be more real people in Congress, that she at one point was denied SNAP benefits,
Right.
and how devastating that was, and then trying to figure out how to navigate the system, and clearly she's like a fairly sophisticated person because she's got undergrad degree and a law degree, and her law degree I think was also in like Indian affairs or something like that.
Gotcha.
But if she can't get through
the system is broke. Yeah.
Like, how are you going to expect anybody that's not quite her level of intelligence or quite her level of sophistication to make it work without all kinds of resources or help or whatever that isn't always going to be there. So I thought that was just real. So
very down to earth, and it was very
So I
needed
appreciated.
To be said.
I definitely appreciate just like I said, like I would definitely recommend like just searching for her on like whatever your podcast platform that you use.
Listen to her.
Yeah, just listen to her talk because she says like some really, and not just, I mean, environmental is obviously our focus today, but I think her in general she talks about some really interesting things that matter to her that aren't going to necessarily matter to everybody in Congress.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they matter to her. They probably matter to a lot of our listeners for various reasons, especially as a woman, especially as somebody who got through being a single mom for a time.
Exactly.
So that's my Secretary Deb Haaland.
Sweet.
And so that. Oh, any questions?
Any questions?
Any comments? Thoughts?
I have a meme I saw the other day.
Oh, what was your meme?
It's kind of really. This woman is at the grocery store, and she's not speaking English, and the dude behind her is getting all annoyed, and then he talks to her, and he's like, like here in America, we speak English. If you want to speak Spanish, go back to Mexico. And she's like, I was speaking Navajo. If you want to speak English, you go back to England.
Nice.
I was like, nice.
I saw that too. As soon as you started telling the grocery store lady on the phone, I was like, oh, that's right. I did see that.
Brilliant.
And she also, and something that, I mean, maybe we could somehow incorporate this, but something she does too is in her acceptance speech that she did start with, this is my background, thanks to my parents for helping raise me, blah, blah. And then she also went into and we're now standing on the land of this tribe.
Yes.
Oh,
And
exactly.
that's something I've noticed some like
Tiki Watiti did that at the Oscars.
Oh yeah.
I think it pissed off some people, but I really appreciated it.
And I was involved in, I can't remember if it was like a film festival.
Film festivals have been doing it
Something.
lately.
Maybe it was a
where
film,
they're
like it was like
thanking
a
the
film
lands.
festival conference or something. Or
Yeah.
some sort of conference. Maybe it was maybe some other thing. But whatever festival or whatever the conference it was, they started it with, okay, if you text, it would be really helpful if I had that number.
I know, right? I can put it in the show notes if we can find it later.
Because if you text your number, or if you text
find your
like,
indigenous region.
yeah, I think you either text your city or your
Nice.
zip code or something.
Yeah.
And then it texts back to you where you are,
Nice.
like whose land you're on. And
I
that's,
know Sundance did it.
Okay.
Sundance, when they were showing not only did Sundance
Maybe that's where
say,
they got it from, was maybe because
Probably.
Sundance had done it. Maybe they
Yeah.
did it like shortly after. And because we were all
'Cause-
virtual, it was easy enough for everybody to just
Right.
say like, oh
Well,
no.
because not only that, but Sundance would say our tribal lands of, the Sundance
Oh.
headquarters is such and such. And then
Yeah.
when they were doing a virtual screening, they would say, and the film was filmed on
Oh.
this land. And it would also research who the tribal lands were for the film they were showing.
And it might have actually been, I'm just thinking, I did so many virtual conferences, it's ridiculous.
Right?
It might have also been this one I attended that was like the Brooklyn, like something books festival.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Like it's not called vintage books, but rare and unique books or something like
Could
that.
be. Right. Okay. Gotcha.
So that might have been one where like at the beginning they're like, okay, everybody get out your phone and text this number.
Yeah, and find out
who was there before you.
I think it's very cool.
So she'll do that, and I think we all should be doing that.
Yeah.
It's 2021. Why
Yeah.
weren't we doing that before?
Exactly.
But
if
it means we're doing it
remember-
now, fine, let's just do it.
If I remember right, I looked it up before for
What's our
Gal's
zip
Guide.
code here?
We should be 46060. We should
you
be
found
on
it.
the Miami Indians ancestral lands, if I remember
sounds,
right.
That sounds right. I think I think Central Indiana is.
There was and there was a little bit of a crossover, so that's why I'm trying to remember. I know it was Miami at one point. There could have been a few more that were in this area. But even like, because my daughters were doing a school project, so I was just like, oh, let's look this up.
Okay. Yeah, like I think it's like, and then I think it helps too, because then when we get to like
Connect to the land that we were in.
Yeah, but then when we get to
And
like
pay homage.
Thanksgiving, we're gonna think a little bit more about what does this really mean, and
Yes.
should I be posting this?
Also in November, we are going to do Native American Month.
Right, and that's like
So, yeah.
as it should be.
Yes, right? Exactly, right? It is National Native American Month in November,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
makes sense because Thanksgiving and all that. But at the same time, it's like, oh, we're going to celebrate.
Yeah.
Does it say what
It
46060
does.
is? What
It's
is it?
the Kick-up. You're going to have to forgive my pronunciation. Kickapoo, and it has a parentheses Kickapoo,
Okay.
and looks like it says Miami. It's
Oh, it looks like it's Miami, but it's not Miami.
no, it looks like Mama Mia, like Mama.
Oh.
It's Maya. Yeah, it looks like Maya Mia.
Miami. Okay, gotcha.
It's
And the Kickapoo?
KIKAAPOI and MYAAMIA.
That's a perfect note to end it on for
Yeah,
people to look
so-
up their zip code. And I'll put that link
so
in the
look
show
up
notes.
your zip code, find out whose land you're on, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And that wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool environmental gal as the Gal's Guide podcast continues. Thanks for listening.
For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gal's Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.